Boom, and we're back for another show. Today, I'm excited. I always say I'm excited, but I always am.
Yeah.
Today we've got my now good friend Jim to come on and tell his story. How you going, mate?
Good, buddy. What's happening?
Oh, just another day in paradise, in staring at the four walls. But we look like we might be out soon.
I've been out and about, mate. I haven't stopped working, so nothing's changed for me.
Yeah, so Jim works in hospitality, and I think it's part of why his story is actually really interesting. I guess, with inverted commas, not your typical kind of drug user or a functioning drug user. So,
Functioning.
so look, I thought today, thanks for coming on and sharing your story. I know it's always tough, and we've had you on the show once before, but yeah, just like it's been a while since we've chatted and spoken about everything. Tell us a little bit about your story. Give us the 3-minute snapshot.
Yeah. Drug user from about 16. Not sure why I took it to the next level. About 5 years ago, I was sort of really, really bad, as in like a daily user, drink and cocaine and whatever else.
Yeah.
A little bit of an opportunist. So if like no one was around for a couple of hours, it's like I couldn't sit with myself.
Yeah.
I controlled it for a while there. It slipped up a little bit last year, which is when I met you.
Yep.
And we did the whole program, and it's been sort of onwards and upwards since then. Maybe there's been 1 or 2 incidents, but no sustained months on end type thing.
Awesome.
I think I always thought it was sort of tied into my parents and things like that, but what I worked out with you was there was a lot of resentment and sort of underlying issues that, led me to self-destruction. It was tied into the business a lot, which I didn't realize. The bad use came around when I took over my own businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. So you, first of all, so what were the main drugs?
Cocaine, alcohol.
Cocaine and alcohol. So,
yeah.
And for your whole life, have you always had businesses and run businesses and stuff like that?
From about 21. So, I used to hate job interviews.
Yeah.
And yeah, so kind of had an opportunity to do a franchise, Subway.
Yeah.
And that was the glory days of Subway when we made a lot of money, and when you got money in your pocket.
Yeah.
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 That's a big problem.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But how does that play out in your psyche? Because you're the exact kind of story that we want to share more on the show. Don't get me wrong. Like everybody has a good story to overcome, but I just think the population cohort that you're a part of, which is the
business owner,
the business owner or the functioning kind of office worker or whatever it is, like people often are in that situation but don't reach out and get help because of stereotypes and stuff like that. Did any of that play into your mind for a long time? Did you think you're okay because you were working for a long time?
Yeah. And it sort of got bad when I'd rock up to work, because all of a sudden then my restaurant wasn't a daily one anymore. It was nights.
Yeah.
I had a bar at one stage too, which doesn't help. So rocking up to work, and then, with cocaine at the start, it's fun, but then there's a point where you're, the paranoia and stuff kicks in. So you get to somewhere and you're not functioning anymore. You're like, oh, everyone's looking at me. They know, give me a drink. And that's when it was always a problem, but I never saw it as a problem, because I think, what's 1 or 2 bags a week, whatever.
Yep.
But then when it became a bit more, then you think, oh, you know, I'm not paying myself so I can use cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, so I think that's interesting. Like, it's funny, right? The last kind of couple of weeks, you know, typically we don't get a lot of people using cocaine reach out to us in terms of like our services and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But in the last few weeks, I've really noticed we've had a few inquiries about people using cocaine.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? And did you kind of find it hard to find stories out there to
Yeah.
relate to? And
All the stories are ice,
yeah,
out drinking and ice, because it's cheaper. I think that obviously more people would use ice or that kind of stuff, especially alcohol, because it's so accessible.
yeah,
The cocaine is like a party drug, and everyone's on it, but I don't think everyone wants to admit that sometimes they're home alone doing lines
yeah,
and drinking, a bottle of scotch to go with it.
yeah,
And then, so then you try and sober up and go to work. And I don't think many people are doing that.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's expensive. Um, yeah.
yeah.
No one's richer than cocaine.
um, so, uh, like, if we can, because I think it's interesting, I want to like sort of explore your story a little bit more,
Yeah.
maybe get into the details a little bit if we can, because I
Yeah.
think it just helps for people to, you know, relate really. So,
Yeah.
if you go back to when you first started using any kinds of drug, like sort
Yeah.
of, yeah, talk us through your early life and when you first started picking up drugs, what was going on, all that stuff.
I enjoyed, so I look a little bit older than what I am. So getting into bars and things like that wasn't hard from sort of 16, 17.
Yeah,
The big one for me was I lived in Port Melbourne, and at the back was all the docks. And so that's where all the raves were. So you could, you know, uh, one of us would drive, we'd jump the fence.
yeah,
And that's when the ecstasy started.
yeah. And what age was that at?
17, 8,
Yeah,
16, something like that, bro.
yeah,
And that was those days. Half a pill would last you a while.
yeah.
And then
When it was
as you,
good.
yeah, exactly. I think that's the problem. The tolerance goes up, and the shit is dirtier, and
Yeah.
downward spiral.
And
Um,
was that
yeah,
time, because I always find it interesting with people, right? Was that time in your life actually fun? Like for a good
let,
amount of years, was it actually fun, your drug use?
make no mistake. Yeah, drugs are fun. No one does it because it's bad the first time.
Yeah.
It's as with anything when it becomes a problem. And I think my problems come out, maybe it's not cocaine, it might be junk food, because I go from 80 kilos to 100 kilos
Yeah.
in a year, and then I'm back down. So it comes out in other ways.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're just masking whatever it is with other shit. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun, man. Well, I'm not going to lie. It's every drug user knows it's at the start. It's fun. It's sociable. It's just that for some reason, addicts, we go past the fun
Yeah.
to blackout or to whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And was that so when you were 16, 17 going to those raves
yeah.
and what were you just kind of using like ecstasy and alcohol and stuff? Yeah.
Ecstasy, alcohol, cocaine. 20 years ago, it was sort of it was for the movies. I never came across it
Yeah.
much. But the universe has a funny way of all of a sudden all your friends are dealers. You know what I mean? If your energy is going that way, that's where you end up.
Yeah. So like, what was I going to ask? I was going to ask you something about those early days. Oh yeah. So did you always kind of notice with yourself that you use drugs differently, or were you using it kind of the same as your friends in those
I was
early days?
So I was kind of using it the same. The only thing was I thought I had a tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go a lot one pill. Like I said, half a pill in the early days was plenty.
Yeah.
It's the 2s and 3s and the hallucinating where you realize maybe maybe this is not so good. The lucky thing was I never hurt myself, as in like a couple of times that I drove, and I never crashed the car or anything like that. So I never had that wake up call.
Yeah.
And then for me later, it was just about sitting at home and doing it before anyone came home.
Yeah. Yeah. So where did it progress to from there? Like, on the chronological order. So how long did that kind of partying all go on for? And when did you start getting the businesses and all that?
Businesses, so 21. So,
yeah.
And that's when I started having extra cash in my pocket, because back then hospitality was kind of profitable. So you'd pay yourself $1,000 a week, but you also had 300-400 out of the profits to, like, you know what I mean? And it's not hard to, when my shops were pretty central, to go to the shop, grab some cash out of the safe from the night and just do whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah.
So with me having the more money, cocaine's that rich party drug. You're the cool guy because you got it.
Yeah.
And like I said, before you know it, all of a sudden the only people you know are dealers, because dealers love to know you.
Yeah.
and yeah.
So how did it progress?
Money.
From money.
I had money. Yeah, I had money in my pocket. I was paying myself pretty well. I bought an investment property. I was doing all the stuff a person with a regular job would.
Yeah.
But then I had excess money. So it wasn't about going and getting a drink and having a line. It was like, I want it now. I want it, Yeah.
So can you remember the first time you did it?
Cocaine. Ooh. Probably at a rave, I think I got shot. I didn't think much of it. It just, as I said, the more partying I did, the more you'd get offered, the more you'd buy some, and then you kind of sort of know who's got good stuff and bad stuff, and yeah.
So, because it's funny, right? I don't know. Everybody has a different experience with different drugs, don't they? And I remember the first time I did cocaine.
Yeah.
And maybe it was probably more that, like, we probably had shit stuff or something. But like, I wasn't that excited about it.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? With me, the first good time, because it was like sporadically for a few years, I'm a person that's not very confident.
Yeah.
And so what would cocaine do is, not that I was confident around people. In my mind, I was a superstar.
Yeah.
And so the narrative that's going on in your head is like, oh, I can get this girl. And if I just said this to this person and I text this to this person, it's all going to work out.
Yeah.
And what you realize when you sober up is your experience was nothing. That girl probably thought you were just a dickhead. But in your mind, because I was always the weight up and down, I was never really confident, right?
Yeah.
Even though at 21, I owned businesses, I traveled, I did more than most 21-year-olds.
Yeah.
Something in my head was telling me, you're not successful. I had the apartment in South Yarra. I was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in your head, the confidence. So for me, the uppers worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why my experience with uppers was better than maybe you. Maybe you were, super good looking Jack boy. You wanted
far
something
from it.
you wanted something else, you know what I mean? But for me, in my mind, I was like the bee's knees, which is something maybe everyone craves, that maybe it's your ego. I could never put my finger on what my triggers were as such, because everything I did in my life was success. I was buying a restaurant for 80 grand, selling it a year later for 260.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm confident in my ability, but then I would go to these job interviews because I wanted to get out of hospitality, and I'd get wouldn't even get close to a job.
Yeah.
And it was like, am I too honest? And what's the problem, you know? And that's what it was for me. It was a confidence thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. And that's the thing, like, that's why I want to kind of like flesh out the story, because
Yeah.
when you kind of start talking about it and you get down to it, you start to really touch on, you know, like you said, the underlying kind of reasons why
Yeah.
people use it. And that's the starting point, isn't it? For,
Well, that didn't count. So you think about it. My worst rock bottom was like 5 years ago,
yeah,
and I didn't realize this shit till last year.
yeah,
You know, I kind of touched on it with a couple other people in the past,
mm,
but I always thought it was, you know, like beliefs and whatever. But at the end of the day, for me, it was like resentment with people. Like, why did that idiot get that job, or why did that idiot get that fucking pay rise?
yeah,
Why am I weak and like a, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And there was a couple like times with business partners and that,
yeah,
and then I was like, you know, I do this for them, but they're not doing shit for me.
yeah,
You know, it was a lot of maybe communicating, and then the frustrations would build up, and the confidence. Then you're like, it's your fault. You know what I mean? You play that game.
yeah.
So
And
the
it's,
cocaine just takes that away.
yeah, and it's funny, right? I remember when I met you
Yeah,
first time, like,
yeah,
you're always lovely guy, really nice, but you were just you were just angry, but not in like,
angry.
when I say that, like, people always think like, oh, if people are angry, they're throwing shit through doors or walls or whatever.
Yeah,
It's not like that.
yeah,
You were just annoyed at the world.
frustrated. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what it was, man. I was just frustrated at everything.
Yeah,
Why did this person not fucking do that for me when I did 10 times that for him? And I think you told me it's fucking don't do it. Don't expect something in return.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So and that was a game breaker for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny, and you know, we'll probably circle back around and come to it because it's really
Yeah.
interesting for people. But it's funny how, because I had the same thing in different ways. Like,
Yeah.
really, what you're trying to do with this whole recovery thing is that, yeah, you focus on one of those underlying issues, but it's really like this kind of perspective slash attitude shift that
Yeah.
like does it for you, you know. And it
Yeah. Yeah.
seems really simple, but it's really hard to do.
Yeah. And that's what when you're trying to explain your drug use to someone, they're like, dude, just stop. Don't. But I remember driving to drug dealers' houses
Mm.
saying, I'm not going to buy drugs. And then you're there buying, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's what I find that people that don't do drugs never understand is like, you start the day like the one day at a time thing. And before you know it, I drive past certain freeways and I get itches still
Yeah.
to this day, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah.
Yeah. And I want to come back and circle back to that because I think it's interesting. But just going back, you're flying. You started to use, right, 21, and I imagine, did that go all through your 20s, like the usage and
Yeah. 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 On, off. Yeah.
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 So tell me, right, when, like, how long did it take before the wheels kind of fell off? And
About
things started to
5, 6 years ago when I had my firstborn.
yeah. So
Yeah.
when was that? So you started at 21 and then
She's 6. So I had her at 32, 33, something like that.
so
Or my
that's
wife got pregnant around there.
yeah, so that's like 12 years
12
before
years of just not realizing that where we were heading. So I was just like a social user.
yeah.
It's
Well,
probably a problem when you come home and then you still got drugs and you have to finish everything. You can't just you know how people can leave it?
yeah.
I would come home and warm up a plate and run to my bedroom and fucking, yeah.
Yeah.
But I wasn't buying it in excess like I did once my wife got pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that and that's the thing, right? So tell me in the depths of like when you're having these rock bottoms, like what's it like? What was going on psychologically? What was going on in your life? You know, I know that stuff's hard to talk about, but
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
just
no,
give
no.
us
Yeah.
an insight.
For me, it's more just letting out frustration. So I was especially with this last place, which is I've been there sort of 5 years.
Yeah.
It's probably the hardest one I've had to turn around.
With
It took
work,
a
you
lot.
mean?
Yeah. So my frustrations were at an all-time high. I probably blamed everyone else for sort of, leaving me there and walking out, and I couldn't get a job in between, and I didn't want to go there, and then I took it out on my wife. So it was just anger.
Yeah.
I always had a lot of anger. So that's yeah. And then the kids, and then you can't just go to the pub anymore. You got to,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And then as like I said, your circle of friends becomes non-existent because A, you're too busy, and then B, your only friends are really drug dealers when you go over to their house. So it was a mixture. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a real mixture.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So what kind of stuff were you doing? Like, how much were you using? Like, what was it all? What was happening in the height of that kind of rock bottom?
At its worst would be like maybe 4, 5, 6 bags in a week or in 2 days. But I would drink a lot.
Yeah.
So I had a collection of scotches, which I was collecting from 20 men. And every time someone would go overseas, or I would buy like 2 bottles, and I'm talking like $400-$500 bottles
Yeah.
that I collected over the years,
Yeah.
and they were gone.
Wow.
You know what I mean? In
Yeah.
that sort of, and I'm saying like I would use on a night a lot and then drink a whole bottle of like this $400
Wow.
30-year-old collector's item.
Just
Just
gone like
because
that, huh?
gone, bro, gone. And it was, I was like, and it was funny when I was collecting it, this before she got pregnant, and I was like, I'll give this to my son. Imagine what this will be worth. And I had bottles in leather and all this crap, and just gone in within like a couple of years, like 2 years.
Yeah.
That's just, it might not sound like a lot, but that's just me at home alone, having 2 bags and drinking a bottle of scotch and blacking out.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not even the times you went out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at a certain point, the alcohol calms you, so you're not that high too. But then you obviously the alcohol surpasses it, and you're buckled before. You know what I mean? You black out and shit, which is, they say it's like a car crash for your brain.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So interesting. So, and how were you feeling emotionally at this kind of point in time? Were you
Like
completely
I said,
depressed, or?
yeah, depressed. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know. And like I said to you as well, my mum treated me bad, and my dad hit us, and my brother's 10 years older and doesn't put up with my shit, and my wife doesn't she supports everyone else, not me. And then you realize it's just you and your frustrations. So I blamed everyone except me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Really interesting. So so you mentioned that the rock bottom was kind of the biggest thing was like 5 years ago. And
Yeah.
then,
Coming into work, maybe even 2, 3 years ago, just coming into work, smashed.
mm,
And then I remember I went on a delivery, and the car broke down. And I punched the windscreen, smashed the windscreen, and I got my wife to come pick me up. And I didn't go back to work. And that was probably where I started thinking, you know what? I can't be rocking up to work and doing this shit
yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the thing that I find that people will probably find interesting listening to this is that, so that was, 3 to 5 years ago, this
Yeah.
kind of the height of it all, when it was all just at its
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah.
But still, that wasn't the time where you were able to kind of completely turn it around. So,
No. I went to rehab, like that was in December. I
yeah.
think I went to rehab that Jan. It wasn't a rehab. It was like a retreat.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was 2 weeks. You ate well, you did everything, you did exercise, you go on these morning walks, and life's good.
Yeah.
And yeah, everything's amazing.
Yeah.
And then came back. That lasted about 6 months, and then you realise you're in the real world again, and none of these problems changed.
Was it kind of like one of those like health retreats?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But and
So,
you do the psychological work and all that. And I think with me, I always knew there was a problem. I don't need a psychologist to tell me. It's more about taking the skills and using them. I don't think I was ready to use anything.
yeah. Yeah.
Skill everything I learned. So I learned everything there was to fucking uh, stop.
Yep.
But then I couldn't work out why I can't stop. And it's like, because it's 20 years of doing the same shit and not being willing to put those actions into place. It's like people that can't lose weight.
Yeah.
You know, if you eat chicken and salad, you're, you know, all your problems are gone, but you don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So interesting. And this is the thing that I always say to people. So, because I'm with you, you know, it's not about going away to rehab all the time. You know, that's not the thing that
No.
fixes it. And people often think it is that, and it's going to be some kind of event that's going to
Yeah.
fix them.
No.
And just to kind of clarify, rehab's really good for some people if you like really need structure and stuff back
Yeah.
in your life. But
Yeah.
it's more about like how are you actually going to change your lifestyle, and how are you actually going to find the drivers and have that internal shift that's going to help you sustain that change in lifestyle that's going to get you
Yeah.
the long-term change.
Yeah. Can I just say one thing too? Like, I think with you, I always said, once this shop becomes successful, I will never use again, right? And it's the shop that's frustrating me. And we're very successful at the minute, right?
Yeah.
Even with all this Corona stuff, we're doing really well.
Yeah.
That still didn't stop me from using not long ago.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's that self-sabotage and always the loathing of yourself. You know, it's always something's got to change. You always blame the external.
That's right.
Something else has got to change for me to be better, but it's never that. It's your circumstances aren't never going to change.
That's right.
You got to change yourself. Yeah.
I love it, man. And it's so good that you've had that realization and that insight, because that is like the golden ticket, really. That's the money right there. So I want to kind of talk about that.
Hold one sec, Jackie boy.
Yep, no worries.
All right, thank you. This is a guy that was meant to be here an hour and a half ago. I don't know if he get his number plate. It's no good.
Hey, we're going to leave it in the show.
Yeah, no, why not? It's everyone else reviews me, mate. Why can't I review these technicians?
That's right. Yeah. So the thing that I kind of want to touch on, which I find is interesting, because that is a super insightful point that you made about changing yourself and, you know, having that deep realization with it. So, the thing that I want to kind of touch on is that 5 years where you had that rock bottom, you kind of went, I need to get some help. You went off to the retreat or wherever it was. What was that 3 to 5 years like when you were just really wanted, I guess, where, you wanted your life to be different, but it was the same. Like, what was that like? Yeah.
And you probably just mask yourself with the drugs, man. Like, you probably don't realize that it's nothing to it's not that bad, you know what I mean? Like, I was doing well, and here I needed that extra confidence for some reason, and I don't think I'm not a confident person. I daily have to talk to, but you know what I mean? Like, I can't be shy, but for some reason in my head, that's the loop that plays, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that 3 to 5 years, I think I was, here's another one for the drug. You're just justifying your usage. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it is. So those 3 to 5 years, you blame. It's a mess. Yeah, you're going from blacking out at night to waking up at 7 and going to work and having 2 coffees, and that's me I thought I was like, I didn't need 5 days to recover.
Yeah.
I was like at work the next day. I was at 1 hour sleep, but 2 coffees and away we went. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So that's why I think with me the mess was hidden a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the cocaine or whatever. I was still drinking a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't gamble, and I was at the pokies drinking because that was
Yeah.
the only place. Look, that's just
Yeah.
so you understand how rock bottom. You at the pokies on a Tuesday afternoon just to have like a couple of shots of tequila.
Yeah.
That's
I know.
And
And like it's really interesting that you say all that, because I was just reflecting, because when you said that, you hit your rock bottom and then it took you those many years to actually start to turn it around and change.
yeah,
Like, because I was the same. I reckon the period of time where I actually didn't want to be doing what I was doing anymore, but I just couldn't stop and I kept going.
yeah,
In hindsight, that was
yeah.
probably the most painful time
Of
out of
course.
all of it.
Yeah. Because that's the shame. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the shame you feel in. Why can't I stop? I want to stop, but why can't I stop? And it goes back to that loop, man. You're like in the car driving 25 minutes away to buy something at 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's just that loop, that opportunity. Like, so I had a shop where I'd start at 4 a.m. but finish at 11. My wife wouldn't come home to 7, 8 at night. Boom. I don't want to buy drugs, but there I am at 11 o'clock
Yeah.
drinking or buying drugs. And
Yeah.
you don't know why.
Yeah.
You're like over it. It doesn't do anything for you anymore. It doesn't whatever. You know what I mean? Like all the shit that come, how many times did I get a speeding fine or because you're rushing to buy it, or the CityLink fucking bills, and it's just a chaos.
Yeah.
People don't realize, like if you go 3-4 times, you use CityLink, there's another $50-100.
Yeah.
If you go to the pokies because you can't get Coke and you're just drinking, that's all related back to the Coke. So there's another $100. You know what I mean? And it's just the chaos and the bullshit you tell yourself that it's,
Yeah.
it's not, and that's what people maybe need to realize.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that 3 or 4 years, because I know before you worked with me, which was good, and this is kind of what I want to get across to people, that thing about don't give up, it's a process, that sort of stuff. Because you'd done a couple of different stuff that really helped you before you kind of saw me as well and worked with me.
I did some stuff with Ryan, which Ryan Hassan, but he's not a Lebo.
I know. I've thought that as well. And he's a good dude, Ryan, and they're on a good thing. So they're from the Center of Healing. And they have lots of stuff that they do on social media, so people can check that out. They're good.
And Mel as well. Mel was really good.
And what was that kind of about for you?
That was more around beliefs and the blockages, you put on yourself.
Yeah.
So I always believe that when I go in to meet someone, they view me a certain way, and it's just working around those and realizing that's just the bullshit you tell yourself to justify stuff. There was the rare. So I've done one thing a year, if you like. And everything sort of helps.
Yeah.
And here we are, where I don't think I'm 100% cured. I could fuck up today, I know that, but I just know that, when I do my journaling, when I do my exercise, when I fill up my day with positive stuff, I don't use. So, and that came a lot from with you, the journaling and the resentment, and that resentment list allowed me to be a lot freer.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, that was a really.
And I think that's the thing, right? because that's what I'm always going for with people, and it's a hard conversation unless you have it with people over time to kind of get them to understand. Because I'm definitely not saying that it's okay to go and use cocaine or whatever, but
No,
the thing that I was going for with you and go for with most people is, let's kind of just forget about the drugs and alcohol for a second.
100%. Yeah.
Let's try and stop using them, right? So that we can get a clear
View. Yeah.
canvas and we can work with it. But I think people kind of, when they talk about recovery, they get caught up about the using, they get caught up about the clean
Yeah.
time, they get caught up about all this stuff. But
No.
really what recovery is and what you're going for is to have a good life, to feel good about yourself, to
100%.
feel okay in the world, to have some
Yeah.
peace. And actually, when you kind of achieve that, the
Yeah.
drugs and alcohol use subsides
On a
anyway.
stop. Yeah. So the few times that I've used since, I've never been like angry or anything about it. Like there hasn't been any punching, or it's just like a social thing.
Yeah.
And if that
And
social circle,
and
yeah,
the thing that I've noticed about it though is that when you've done it, right, you've
yeah,
actually called me within that next week or whatever it is, and you've
yeah,
gone,
yeah.
"Hey, I didn't even really like it that much."
I didn't. No, I didn't. And that's the thing. Like it just masks stuff. So now there might be something there, and I'll use, but I won't go chasing and spend the 5 days benders and 3-day benders and all that stuff where I was angry at the world.
Yeah.
I'm a much better person, I think.
Yeah.
Don't ask my wife though, because she thinks otherwise. A lot of people that don't use drugs just think it's the drugs, but it's not. It's how you are around them.
Yeah.
For
That's
me,
right.
because I know ice or heroin there might be physical stuff to it.
Yeah.
I know with cocaine, you get that itch, but sometimes driving to go get the drugs and it is all the excitement than the actual usage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, you might drive somewhere, go get it, come back, and then you go and then you start using, and it's
Yeah.
it's not what it was.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's interesting to kind of hear you talk about it as well, because
Yeah.
even the way that you're talking about, like, your relationship to alcohol and drugs has completely changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really funny. Like, I was speaking to you about everything the other day, I think, and you said something that was interesting. You were like, "Yeah, you're like, oh, because when did we work together? When was that? Like last year, middle of the year?
Middle last year. Yeah.
Yeah, so nearly a year ago now.
Yeah.
And there's only been like a couple times that you've one-off
Yeah. A couple of
occasions.
times. Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, but last time I spoke to you, you were just like, yeah, I've done it a couple of times. I didn't even really want to do it. And I don't even really want to do that, with
No.
my life moving forward.
No.
And that's the interesting thing to me, how you can
Yeah.
just have some shifts, and then, yeah, your mindset around it changes, your relationship to it changes.
Oh, my relationship is way different, bro. Like way different. Like I said, now it's back to like 16 where it was a social thing
Yeah.
and I wasn't angry at the world anymore. And I'm not even blaming anyone for my shit. You know what I mean? I probably should not have been where I was,
Yeah.
which was at my work, and people came there, but I could have kicked them out. I didn't. But there's been plenty of times where I've kicked them out and things like that. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's all about, for me, it was all about, I always didn't realize I was doing this, but I would always owe someone $100. So then I had an excuse to go back.
Yeah.
So once you knock off your debts, which I think me and you talked about before we started, just paying back, and then you don't have an excuse to call them anymore.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I love it, man. So interesting. So, just kind of in the last little bit of this reflection, it's been awesome to hear your story, and again, it's really interesting to hear the stuff around cocaine in particular.
Yeah.
But yeah, just in this kind of last bit, like so tell us about your life now. Like, what have you been able to kind of achieve with this new mindset recovery operating system on board? And kind of tell me a little bit about, there's a few questions here. Tell me a little bit about like what recovery means to you, because yeah, it's really interesting, and it's something that we are on a mission to kind of get across to people, is that this is not about, like clean time or whatever. This is about being a good person, feeling good about yourself, having a good
That's it.
life, being content. Yeah. So tell us like what recovery means to you.
Just that what you just said, mate. I'm just content with life, my relationship with staff and friends, and just getting rid of all those toxic people is cool. There's more money in the bank. There's more, you know what I mean? Like, we came to this Corona, and every restaurant owner wanted to kill themselves, and we excelled.
Yeah.
We're doing better. You know, we've been doing. I can't get any money from the government because we're up.
Yeah.
And that's a rarity for hospitality. So just your mindset, like this was all calm coming to us, and I was just calm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to be calm, just to be happy, just to, like I said, journal, and just you are making new relationships with people, a lot of ideas,
Yeah.
a lot of shit. My brain doesn't stop. Which interesting. Someone said I might have ADHD.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So it would have been good to know in like year 12. But yeah, just feel good, man. Like going for walks every day with my kids. Yeah, it's just good. I'm sort of starting to lose weight again. I think I was down like 13 kilos at the start of the year, just from eating. Just from eating well, and that kind of went off the rails a bit. But back on the just eating, not even adhering to anything strict, just being normal, man. Like, it's weird, yeah. Just to be normal, cool, calm under pressure. There's no holes in the walls. There's no nothing.
Yeah.
Life's good.
Love it, man. So like, what would you say to people that are in, I know this is stereotypical and like
Yeah.
but it's true. Like, I don't know, people listen to this stuff and they go, I'd love to hear like what I could do. So yeah, what would you say to someone like you that is functioning, their life kind of feels like it's falling apart a little bit, things aren't the way that they want them to be? What would you say to them to kind of help them?
Come and see Jackie Boy and do the program.
Yeah. Well, other than that,
come and get a pizza. That'll change your life. For me, it's just pausing. Journaling was big.
Yeah. So talk us through that. What was, because I remember when someone told me to journal, I was like, what the fuck is that going to do? Right.
Yeah.
But what is it that helps?
It's a release. So you come home at the end of the night, or maybe in the morning, and you just write down your feelings and sometimes I'll sit there with like a line, and my first line is, wow, I don't know what the fuck I'm writing. Right? And then within 20 minutes, there's 2 pages there.
Yeah.
And it's that release. So I think journaling, exercise, all that stuff, eating well, is just pushing your energy into a good direction.
100%.
And I think that's all it comes down. So whatever it is for you that's positive, if you just work to positive, the universe, bro, has got some funny way of your energy is positive. You do positive shit, you fuck up, and you'll see your sales on a Friday are half.
Yeah.
And that always made me laugh. Like, because I might have used on a Wednesday, I'd get to Friday where you think, oh, this is our busy day, and it's dead. And you're like, it clicks, yeah? Like,
yeah.
just to put all your energy into going in a certain direction, and some, things reveal themselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I love it, man. It's awesome. It's awesome. Well, look, I just want to say thanks for coming on and talking us through your story, because and the awesome thing for me, and it's hard, I talk to people all the time and they kind of don't believe me, but yeah, the change is amazing in you. From
I'll tell everyone this. I had a barbecue, like a steamer, where you put not a steamer, like the wood burner.
Yep.
Small. It took 4 years to put it together, and it was half an hour. Like, that's the difference when you're on drugs and off drugs. You just do shit. Like,
yeah,
you just get things done, and that's the cost that people might not realize. So, like, when you're just in a bad mindset, it's not the drugs, it's not whatever. Like, you just don't do anything. There was plenty of weeks where I wasn't on drugs, but I was just low.
Yeah.
And that was the thing for me with the drugs. And then simple writing like a massive list at the start of every month and just ticking shit off and things like that. Man, it just gets the ball rolling into a certain direction.
Yeah.
And you'll fuck up. I'm living proof. You'll fuck up and you just bounce. You can't dwell in the fuck up for too long, and you just move on, mate. You keep journaling, you keep eating your chicken and salad, and off you go.
That's right. Well, it's funny you talk about the kind of slip ups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've definitely found that's something that is a shift for people when we work with them, because we try and come at it a little bit differently with like the whole perception of what recovery is. And yeah, it's hard to strike the balance and for people to get it. It's not saying that slipping up is okay and all that, but it's also like, it's also just reframing it, because so many people do that. They slip up and they're like, oh, and they just go straight back into that kind of belief system that they're going to be fucked forever and that they're going to be stuck in this and they can't do it and blah, 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 blah. And when you just kind of flip it on its head and reframe it as just an event that you can learn from, and that it doesn't actually matter.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Like, it really doesn't.
You haven't lost all the amazing work that you've done within yourself previously.
And that's probably sorry, mate.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing to tell non-drug users, that, and they're the ones that bring you down sometimes too. Like, oh, you fucked up again. And then, the shaming and all that stuff starts again. But just within yourself, that, I fucked up, but everyone fucks up. It's just that you fucked up with drugs.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome, man. I love it. So, hey, again, thanks for coming on, telling us about everything. And yeah, look, I don't know. It's probably not the best endorsement for your restaurant, so you can tell people where to come and find you if you want, or you can leave it. But I just appreciate you being willing to kind of share your story. Sounds funny, but it'll help a lot of people. So awesome, man. Thanks.
Yeah, that's it. Everyone, good luck. There's no blanket recovery that helps everyone. Just take your time and take it easy and enjoy life, man. It's I just walked an hour, and look at me, I'm not even huffing and puffing.
Love it.
See you guys.
See you, mate. Thanks.
Ciao, bye.